If we're going to talk about Van for a second, something that blew my mind. So, does anybody here ever watch the show Shameless?
Yeah, I love Shameless.
Right, Shameless, one of the best shows ever. I couldn't believe that I only started watching this show like a month ago. Very first episode, I'm like, hey, that's Van. Van's one of the main characters in this. Scene 2 is just Van full dong out. And I turned to Kelsey, I was like, we just saw Van's penis. Like, I didn't know how to end it.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we would greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Reba. Reba went 127 episodes over 6 seasons on the WB. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing October 5th, 2001. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys. Well, some of the boys, Ferg and Joe. Just a 3-man for the first time ever. What's going on, guys?
A single mom who worked 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops. I fucking love this song so much. I'm so excited.
And yeah, for those of you wondering about Nick and Gordo, I think they're getting some preliminary work together, trying to figure out the details on their poopy and fart podcast that they're going to be doing on the side. So just the 3 of us today.
Will not subscribe. Well, we know that a 3-man booth does not work in wrestling. We'll see how it works in podcasting.
I feel it was
It's
one
the
of those
norm in
things.
wrestling now.
It's kind of the norm in podcasting. I remember when we first decided to do this show, and we're all like, "Yeah, I'm in." And my first reaction was, "We can't have 5 people. That's way too many people to talk." We've made it work, but for the first time, we'll actually be doing a 3-man. I'm actually interested in how this is going to go.
Yeah, we'll see how this turns out. All told, we'll see. I feel like we've got 2 of the biggest talkers as part of it, so we'll see how that works. But it also has the 2 people who only talk over each other on it, so Ferg and I are just going to destroy this.
If you don't think that was a thought when I was driving home from work today, I was like, oh, fuck. It's only 3 of us, but it's Joe and Ferg. Always talk at the same time.
Over talkers.
We're over talkers, but have completely different opinions on everything.
So it's never like it adds up to be like, it never syncs as like it's a chorus pedal or something. It's always just like the complete dissonance it shouldn't be. Well, I won't be talking much this episode. I'll just be sitting here going, Reba, the whole time. Actually, to be fair, Barbara Jean. Barbara Jean, Babosaurus Rex. Everyone's going to disagree with me on this one. I don't give a shit. Barbara Jean all day long.
Adamantly disagree, but I guess we will get to that as we meet the character. If it wasn't already apparent to those of you listening, Reba is a Joe pick. I think that's why Nick and Gordo are actually not here this week. I think they're just tired of Joe picks, and they're trying to bail out.
To be fair, this is a Joe pick, but this is like the structure of a classic sitcom. This isn't something super weird. This is like a family sitcom. This hits all the marks of what we do. This isn't like a weird out Joe pick.
After Homeboys and Outer Space, I think I'd rather a Joe pick than a Gordo pick.
There it is, right there. Homeboys in Outer Space, last week's episode?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the worst shows we've ever watched. We literally got into a fight during the episode about whether or not it was the worst show we ever did. And of course, only Gordo disagreed with that opinion.
But I would like to say to those listening, if you skip that one because you didn't know the show, I've said this before, sometimes like those shows that you've never heard of, especially ones that are really not good shows, sometimes some of the better content we make because we can have a little bit more fun. So if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to last week's episode. Homeboys in Outer Space. Classic show that we all grew up watching.
Out of our first run of shows, I still think one of the best shows, and maybe the show where we hit our groove as to sort of how this podcast works the way it does now, is Country Comfort.
Yeah, I think
I know a lot of people haven't listened to that one because who the fuck would watch Country Comfort? It was one of the worst shows of all time, but I think that's one of our best episodes.
That's because it's the one and only time we've all agreed on something.
Everyone was so mad.
It was fun to all mutually hate the show together.
I don't care what Gordo says. He hated Homeboys and Outer Space too.
Yeah, he's just lying. He's just trying to put on a strong face.
I have a feeling that you guys are correct. But, Joe, to go back again, so you obviously picked this. Why Reba?
Reba was a show, I always knew about this show, right? This was the kind of show that we've talked about this a couple of times where this was like a high school girlfriend's mom show. Like, this was the show that, like, you'd come in from doing something to, like, taking them home or whatever, and, like, what are you doing? Like, we're all having soup and watching Reba. And you'd be like, sure, why not, I guess. Like,
Oh, soup night.
hey, I had a lot of homemade soups in high school, and they were all delicious. But then I obviously never watched it again, right? Like, why would I rewatch Reba? And then it randomly popped up on Hulu, and Kelsey and I watched the first episode, and we're like, that was pretty good. I guess, like, fast forward to, like, 2 weeks ago when we had finished, like, episode 200 and started watching Reba's most recent show, Malibu Country, because we were so obsessed. I had bought the record of the theme song and played it a million times. Like, I don't know, this show just really got me.
For me, this was on, I believe, when we got home from school every day, and I would flip through and there'd just be ton of shitty shows, and this was at the least of the shitty shows, so it was a reluctant put on, and I think I watched, not in order, but most of the show, like hate watched.
How many times were you eating soup while watching it, though?
No, I eat a lot of soup, so it's a good chance, but
Statistically.
I love it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the show. I remember it being a pretty big show in its day. We've talked about this before, though. I think this also kind of lines up with, I don't know, what are we around? So 2001, we're all like 15, 16, right in that wheelhouse.
Yeah.
We're probably going out a lot at the time. I don't know. I remember seeing a bunch of it, but it's not super like embedded in my brain. I remember all the characters and the basic structure of the show and who was who, but I don't have like, if you told me to name anything that happened in any episode, I got nothing.
also 17-year-old Ferg was in love with Cheyenne.
Yes,
I can see
but
that.
Were you also in love with her previously because of her work on Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, Sam?
Sam.
Oh,
Which is one of the
okay.
first things when I saw this. I was like, is that Sam? If you want to put a weird cultural, Jay, how old were you when this came out? This was originally set to premiere on September 14th, 2001.
Oh, I have it written down, but knew I wouldn't have to bring it up.
Of course not. But of course, we've talked numerous times about where we all were on 9/11. That week, we all could have used a Reba laugh. I could have used this. I could have used a break from sitting there studying a jacket and watching CNN for 90 hours and my eyes drying out.
Yeah.
I would have loved some Reba.
So it only got pushed like a couple weeks. Because, realistically,
October.
It was October 5th. All television at that time was a little news focused. There wasn't it wasn't a good time to premiere a new show. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, I guess. But,
I remember because they did that thing where they did SNL for the first time and they had Rudy Giuliani on and he was like, you can be funny, but you never have before.
Yeah,
Waka,
that
waka,
joke.
waka. And everyone was like, isn't this funny? Isn't this cute? It's like, this is a weird thing to like get back to normality.
we got like SNL and SmackDown.
Yeah, I love that SmackDown was like, I think America needs bad 2001 wrestling. And we're all like, I guess, yeah, sure. We're all at Ferg's house watching it. We didn't say no.
Yeah. Also, I guess before we get into the actual episode itself, I'm sure, Joe, you know this, but I'm just reading up, doing some notes before we're getting ready. So originally, Reba's name was going to be Sally, and they changed it an hour before they recorded the episode, and then they ended up recording two versions, one where they call her Sally and one where they call her Reba.
Why?
It seems weird to me when someone's this like famous and known. I mean, like, but Reba, the weird thing is this show made Reba. Right? Like Sonny and Cher was Sonny and Cher, not Sonny Bono and Cher Bono. You know what I mean? Like they were from the beginning the entity of single name. But our entire lives up until this show, it was Reba McEntire. And then after
call
this
her Reba
show,
McEntire.
Well, it's her name, but yeah, no, I get what Joe's saying. It
but
made
like,
her
she
more
became
famous.
Madonna, Cher, whatever. Now she's one name.
Seal?
You say Reba.
Yeah,
Seal.
Yeah, so from what I gather, it was because of name recognition. And I think it was her pitch, but the idea was her fan base would recognize it if her name was on it, and it would just make more sense to call her Reba. And then other titles that were considered for the show, because originally it was going to be Sally, just Sally, and then it turned to Reba. But Family Planning, Deep in the Heart.
These are terrible sitcom names.
The Reba McEntire show, once they changed the name, yeah. Deep in the Heart, I don't think would have worked. But
Oh,
Yeah,
because they're in Texas.
Yes, Houston, I believe. I don't think they ever specify Houston, but my investigating reporting told me Houston when I read up on it.
Yeah, because people wear Houston stuff, and they always talk about, like, going to San Antonio or Galveston as, like, vacation places. Like, I think even in this episode, they say they're going on their honeymoon in Galveston.
For the honeymoon, yeah.
And it's how much they care about football. That's a Texas thing.
Especially high school
football.
Yeah,
that's
what
very
I meant,
Texas.
high school football.
Yeah. In Galveston, famous city for their song, Galveston. You've got the song about Galveston. Well, I can't think of the guy's name who sang it. He died a couple years ago.
I was going to say, I got nothing, so unless you have all the details, I'm not going to be able to aid you on this one.
Super famous singer.
Michael Jackson.
No, he just died. He's like a pop country singer from the 60s.
Oh, Prince.
Wichita lineman. He's in the country like 2 seconds. But I always think of Galveston because
Gilbert Gottfried.
The only reason that city is famous to me is because that's where they caught Robert Durst dressing up as a woman after he murdered his roommate.
Uncle of Fred Durst.
Yeah, Fred Durst. Have you ever seen the documentary about Robert Durst, The Jinx?
No.
Oh, you guys have to see it. It starts with like a grizzled Texas cop being like, and I saw a floating torso in Galveston Bay, and I put my hand down inside the torso by the rib bones. And you're like, what is happening? And then it's just like, Galveston. It's like the whole town is ruined forever. Glenn Campbell. Thank you. Jesus Christ, it was going to kill me.
There was zero chance I was going to be able to aid you with that. When you gave me the name, I was going to say, I thought maybe it'd be someone I knew. Still don't know him.
Oh, you know who you know, Glenn? Like a rhinestone cowboy.
Oh, High School High.
Oh, from High School High.
I was just going to say, chicka, chicka, chicka from High School High.
We usually get either like a John Lovitz, a Pauly Shore. Who are the guys that we mention every week but never cover anything they're in?
Oh, we have to do High School High for a Patreon.
Gilbert Gottfried.
But you'd also know his song Wichita Lineman. That is what Ron Swanson sings when he climbs the telephone pole to reconnect the cable in the episode of Parks and Rec.
Well, I guess we need to get into this episode here. So to get into the pilot of
To be fair, that was a country singer tangent at least.
Yeah, it was. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying eventually
it was bad. I'm just saying at least it was related.
So the show starts with the Hart family. That's the name of. So it's Reba, but she's not McEntire. They're the Harts, Reba Hart. And they're at a court-ordered therapy for the family. And Reba tells her son the family that sold their kids at the flea market didn't even get mandated therapy. And then we get Dr. Peters enters, who's Nell Carter, who's like a legend from Gimme a Break. And I was like, why is there no audience applause for her just walking on? I just thought she would have been so
like a character
recognized.
actor who should get some recognition.
Yeah, like you thought you get the woo from a few people. How did no one recognize this woman as she walks in the door?
Yeah, as a sitcom podcast, that's some blasphemy right there.
Give Me a Break, show I assume we're going to do eventually, right? I couldn't imagine we didn't. Give me a break, because I know what it takes.
That's definitely on the endless list of shows.
Yeah, which is always, before, to tangent again, it's always funny to me because when we talk sometimes, every now and again, someone will bring up the argument, we're going to run out of shows. No, we're fucking not.
Never.
No,
We
we're
could
not.
do this until the day we're all in hospice care. Yeah. This show could go on forever.
It's like we're
We're
episode...
going to run out of good shows.
Yeah, but like we're on episode 70 right now, and when you think of the shows we haven't even touched, we can write a list way longer than this show. Our show will last, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, but cut to a couple weeks from now, and you go, "Hey, we need everybody's picks," and I sit there and I just draw a complete blank. Like,
yeah, I know it's so hard. I just started keeping a list on my phone every time I think of something weird.
I'll tell you, we'll get into it. You'll find out in a couple weeks. I don't want to disclose what we're doing, but like we're 2 weeks away if everything stays in order from my pick. Which after picking it, I went, I don't even like that pick that much, but I think it'll be a fun show to cover.
Oh, it's not a good show.
I like the idea of the concept, so we can have fun with the concept. But you'll find out in 2 weeks, guys. So keep listening.
don't worry, everybody. My pick is good.
Well, my pick is fantastic because Reba rules. Not to tip my hand on what I think about this TV show, but Reba rules.
Yeah, Joe has a T-shirt. It looks like the Hulk Hogan Hulk Rules shirt, but it says Reba rules.
Hold on. Timestamp that so I remember to go back and make that on TeePublic later so that I can have that for next week's episode.
So, anyways, Reba starts by assuring Dr. Peters that they're not crazy. They're a nice, normal family. And she's like, oh, yeah, just like every other family I get. And we find out that Reba and Brock are separated, and that the whole thing kind of started because they were at a custody hearing and things got out of hand there. And I was wondering, because I've heard like legally separated isn't even a real thing. You're just kind of separated on your own. So I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard that. So I was like, why would you have a custody hearing before you're officially divorced?
Yeah, that would seem to be part of the divorce proceedings, right? Like towards the end, not like when you're like, maybe we'll get back together, I think.
But I guess if you're already living apart, then you'd have to sort
Figure
that
out
out
an
if you're not on the
arrangement.
same page.
Yeah.
But it seems like this should have been pretty cut and dry because it sounds like Brock wants none of the kids. So it's not really an issue.
They don't go into this episode, but the reason that Brock and Reba get divorced is because Brock went through a midlife crisis and he got this weird giant tattoo of a knife with a big handle all the way up his stomach. And it just didn't make any sense to anybody.
Oh, I got it.
Our audience doesn't.
For those of you who like wrestling, I'm like, what a weird pivot. I was like, I thought it was the affair.
So I thought he's cheating on his wife. I didn't know he got a bad tattoo.
Also, Brock Lesnar, if you're listening, please don't kill me. It was Joe.
Joe
who
said it.
Brock Lesnar. That's a stupid fucking tattoo. I'm sorry. You can beat the shit out of me if you want. That tattoo sucks. But I have plenty of tattoos that suck. We could hang out and talk about that instead.
Good luck. Ask him about his Kill 'Em All tramp stamp he has too.
That Jimmy John's logo he has tattooed on his inner
thighs,
thigh.
yeah. But so now Dr. Peter reads like her chart. She finds out it was like a full-on brawl. And she asked Brock about punching the bailiff, but apparently that was Cheyenne, who's their oldest daughter. And she did that because they were trying to kick her boyfriend Van out. We find out that Van plays football, and this is the first that we see that Brock is kind of obsessed with him. He's also the assistant coach to the team. Van's not in the room, but we're learning about him.
This to me was a weird scene, and again, I don't like doing like that. If you jump ahead in the season or whatever, but this is like a weird, like, you're setting the stage that this family is unhinged, that the kids are beating up bailiffs in a courtroom. That's not how this show goes. It's not how the rest of this episode goes. It's not how these characters go. It's a weird way to start, to be like, oh, all the kids were beating up like cops in the courtroom. But it's not what the show's about at all.
This whole opening scene I thought was a very strange scene. They were trying to give you a lot of reveals about what's going on in the family, but I thought this was the wrong way to go about introducing you to everybody. 100%.
I would have rather seen all that. It seems like a good episode.
Yeah, you mean the court episode?
Oh, a crossover with Night Court?
Yes.
Cheyenne's beating up Bull? I would watch that all day long.
Also, we find out Jake, who's like the youngest of the three kids, he's probably like what? Like 6-ish, somewhere around there.
He's pretty young.
Tried to bite someone there. What was it, the court reporter?
The court reporter, yeah. The poor stenographer.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't think anyone was looking. He had a really good, I actually really liked, for a young kid, I thought his acting chops are pretty good in this.
He's a classic TV kid who's like, but I'm really cute. And then the show goes like 10 years. He's like, I didn't think anyone was looking. You're like, oh God, get that monster off the screen.
I've said it before. Only Disney knows how to pick kids. I don't know what like magic thing that they can like see what they look like as adults.
Yeah, it's a weird, I don't know, whatever money Walt Disney paid to, I don't even want to say it because Fergal get mad.
Sure, let's just move past it. So like they keep going on about the whole custody situation, and Jake, that son, says like, I want to stay with mom. Cheyenne's like, I want to stay with dad. Kira, who's the middle child, what would you peg her for? She's probably
like
around like 12-ish,
Yeah.
and Cheyenne's 17, so they're all kind of in maybe about 6 years-ish, 5-6 years apart each. Kira goes, is boot camp an option? Meaning she would rather not stay with either parent. Kira is the sarcastic one. They definitely lean into that.
Yep, they
all
definitely get the
times.
formula down. The dumb one, the sarcastic one, the cute one.
It was, oh man, what's her name? I'm trying
And then
to think.
Van's all of those things.
He's just the dumb one.
No, he's the Cody.
Well, he's the dumb one, but he's also the cute one. Like Van is also like cute about everything he does. You know what I mean?
Oh, I thought you just meant like attractive.
Oh, well, I mean, he is. We'll talk
He's a
about Van
handsome-
in a minute.
He's
Handsome
a
man.
handsome guy, all right?
Handsome guy.
Judgment free.
If we're going to talk about Van for a second, something that blew my mind. So, does anybody here ever watch the show Shameless?
Yeah, I love Shameless.
Right, Shameless, one of the best shows ever. I couldn't believe that I only started watching this show like a month ago. very first episode, I'm like, hey, that's Van. Van's one of the main characters in this. Scene 2 is just Van full dong out. And I turned to Kelsey, I was like, we just saw Van's penis. Like, I didn't know how to end. Because we had just finished Reba, and it was like, well, this seems like the next show to start, and it was just like Van's Wang hanging out, and I was like, that seems weird now. That seems very, very weird now.
And is that in the first episode?
First episode, like 3 minutes.
10 minutes.
Well, great. Now when we cover Shameless, that'll be a fun topic.
I think we should just cover that scene from Shameless. We just go, is it a prosthetic? Is it Kevin's real penis?
It's to go back and escape this conversation. It's funny that Ferg, that you compared him to Cody, because when mentioning Kira and I was saying how sarcastic she was, the first one that came to mind is the oldest of Suzanne Summers' daughters.
Yeah.
Was that Alex?
I don't know if it's Alex.
No, Alex is the youngest
I know who
daughter.
you mean.
Al was
Al's your daughter, yeah. The
But,
girl from My Two Dads who's in Step by Step.
I'm forgetting her name. Dana.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny we both drew step-by-step comparisons. Very different shows, but kind of some template characters that you pull from.
Also later on when they yell die jockstrap, that's a very Dana line too.
Oh yeah. She has those same like just dry one-liners. Very So Brock tells Cheyenne he doesn't have room for her at like his condo. And it was kind of like an awkward moment to me because she's like, Dad, I'll cook for you. I'll clean. Like, please, like, let me stay with you. And he's like, I can't. And it was just like, I don't know.
I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad because she deliberately was with her mom and said, I choose Dad. Man, fuck her.
But the
That's a rough
dad,
situation. That'd be tough to be in.
but for the dad to just be like, she's begging, can I please stay with you? And he's just like, no, I'm good. It just seemed very, very awkward to me. I don't think it was him.
The whole thing is awkward, but also he should have been like, well, maybe on weekends, honey, but I work 9 to 5 and you've got school and I do whatever. Yeah. Like, I think there's just a better way of handling that than just being like, nah, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I definitely don't think he was thinking about Reba's, how she felt in the moment. It was just more like, no, please, I don't want any kids staying at my house.
Well, as we learn in this entire episode, Brock does not care about how Reba feels.
No. And Reba says it's time that, like all of this ends. We need to sort this out. And says that, Brock, you need to get over your midlife crisis and move back home. And you can go bungee jumping or pierce something. Like, it's like whatever you need to get over this, but it's time to come back home. And this is when he drops like the bomb on her and he's like, I can't move back with you. I'm marrying Barbara Jean. I thought Reba's reaction was kind of not as expected because there was like no weight to her hearing about this. It's just more like, no, you're not. It's just, no, you're coming. Don't be silly. Move back in with us. It's like, did you not just hear that he's marrying this human? Like,
yeah, I thought it was strange that she thought this was a temporary thing and he was eventually going to come back.
Yeah.
They're having custody hearings. Clearly, they're at the point of no return.
Well, I mean, like, sometimes that does work itself out. You get the liar scenarios.
It does. It just, they are on very different pages at this point. And for him to be involved with this girl that he's planning on marrying, and for her to still think like, oh, he's coming home any day now. Like, it's like, cut it with this nonsense. But I just thought in general, it was just the reaction she had. There was just no like sadness or realization like, oh my God, he's really staying with her. It was just
should have
more
been
like
angrier. Like, I'll kill you.
It was just more like dismissed it. She's like, no, you're not. Move back home. And it just, I don't know. I just didn't read that as the correct response.
I mean, maybe she's just thinking that like he's saying that because he's spiraling in his crisis, right? And she's like, I know better than you. We've been together all these years. You're saying something dumb.
Right. Well, but then he says like, I can't move in. I'm marrying her. I have to. And she's like, you have to. The only reason you'd have to is if you gone off and then realizes, there might be something. There might be a little bun in the oven. And Jake's he's not like picking up what the cues were there when Reba figures it out. Because again, he's a young kid. So he's like asking like, what? And then finally Kira blurts out, Barbara Jean is pregnant. And Jake's like, I thought Cheyenne was pregnant. And now that whole family's shocked. Kira's just like, no, he's just a stupid kid. I don't know why she defended it like he was wrong. I thought maybe Cheyenne would have said that. But he's like, I'm not stupid. She left the pregnancy test in the trash can.
See, again, this is all stuff that should have been in another pilot. Like, they had the court thing. They had the kids all knowing about her being pregnant and stuff. It's like the fact that they were hiding it from the parents, so the kids knew. You know, they were.
I think they put a lot in this episode. I think they put.
It should have been a 2-part episode. Have all that other stuff before, and then
Agreed.
This is where it all blows up. The climax, like.
You can see the scene where Cheyenne like pees on the stick, finds out it's pregnant. She puts it in the trash barrel. She's freaking out, and you hear Reba downstairs be like, "Cheyenne, it's trash day. Take the trash out." And she's like, "Okay, Mom." And then she forgets, and then it zooms into the trash barrel and does like the and then you know what's gonna happen. Versus just, oh, this feral family of wolves were biting cops in the courtroom, and now everyone's pregnant. Really, that's kind of a weird way to start this.
So you could have had the sister find it and then hold it over her head, like, "No, now you're my slave this week, Cheyenne."
Yeah,
But if
like
she holds
typical
it over her
sitcom
head,
stuff.
she's gonna get pee on her head.
Well, I guess if you really
I'm
does
sorry.
there's only be a few drops. But yeah, so Cheyenne, when she finds out that he saw the stick, says, "I'm gonna kill you," and like dives on top of him, and that causes like a family pileup. So again, I don't know. You say the family's not properly represented. There's multiple pileups going on in this episode alone. So maybe they calm down after this episode. But as far as pilot, this is who they are.
Just say you wouldn't see that behavior from Sally's family.
Right.
That's true. Well, I mean, this episode, I don't know if you guys looked into who directed this. It's James Widows, who was Hoover in Animal House. Who's
Okay,
been in a
cool.
ton of stuff, and he's directed a ton of stuff. But, like, you know, a super funny dude who was in a bunch of, like think of Animal House, right? It's a very funny movie with a lot of weird gags that are very physical. It's like maybe he was just coming from that mindset to be like, people think this is funny. It works in Animal House. It does. It's great. And this is funny, but like later on they pivot, and maybe that was like a director choice versus a, you know,
It could have been.
writer
Yeah,
choice.
Well, again, it's like, you know, pilot episodes, and the whole reason we do the show, right? We talk about it.
Right. Things
Shows,
change.
shows find themselves, they're not always what they are episode one. And as a matter of fact, most shows that do know themselves right from episode one are the most impressive. You're like, how did you just know right off the bat? Like when we watched Roseanne was Roseanne from the minute it started.
Roseanne's a rare one, yeah. I mean, look at like The Office, for example, right? Like The Office in season 1 is not, or
Oh, yeah,
pilot
it took
episode is
some
not The
growth.
Office in season 3, right? But Roseanne is Roseanne from day one until the last season of the original run where they're on a train with Steven Seagal. Then it's not Roseanne anymore. But up until then,
Roseanne stopped being Roseanne, but it started being Roseanne.
yeah, it's such a weird show. I love it, but a weird show.
You see a lot more of it now, though, with everything's made for streaming. So
Yeah,
we've
that
had
changed
this conversation before. Is like you're getting a full show. You're not just getting a pilot and hoping it.
Pilots seem to almost be dying off a little bit.
And like
It's
for better or
because
worse.
like the idea of the pilot, we've gone on this spiel, and I've said this, especially Netflix shows, which we've covered a few. We mentioned Country Comfort earlier, and then such classics as The Crew and The Big Show Show. You know, all the good ones. They buy the show before anything's recorded, and they just buy it on concept, really, and then they film the whole season at once. And then, you know, whether it's good or not, you're going to watch it, get the clicks, and if they don't like it, they just won't renew it. And that's just kind of how it works now. From that pile-up was the fade straight into the intro, and I feel like, Joe, we're not going to agree. I hated this intro. Hated it.
Fucking love this song.
Hate it. It's not just about the song. First, I don't think the song totally fits.
Oh,
But
you mean like Reba doing this?
that's, for those of you listening.
Yes,
So,
that is. I keep doing this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those. So yeah, so the intro is just, it's only shots of Reba on a soundstage, just like looking at the camera at different angles, and over her own song, "I'm a Survivor," and that's it. And it's just no one else from the cast. There's nothing. It's
that
just,
changes. It gets expanded a lot more later on.
I'm
It
watching,
does, that it gets jazzy.
but it was just her. Like, what about the rest of the family? I understand the whole. Maybe
Well,
she
you're selling
changed
it
my-
on Reba, though.
But I get the idea. Let's change my name to Reba for fan recognition and things like that. But come on. They don't even, not a second of anyone else on the intro. It's not even her, like, within the confines of the episode. You're not even looking at clips, essentially, of Reba Hart. you're looking at just Reba McEntire, just
Right.
footage of her. It just
Look
doesn't
at me being
make sense.
sassy.
Yeah, it's a lot of like brassy and sassy Reba.
Oh, do you need a little look to the side action?
But I'll
I
say
don't know.
this: I hate the song, and I don't think it fits as an intro to any sitcom because it just brings you down. It didn't
It's
get
not-
me pumped or excited.
It's not fun
too
enough.
like melancholy. Like
I agree, and the actual song is like when it's not edited is way more depressing. But they get smart later on, where literally it's just like the picture of Reba and just I'm a survivor, and they
Yeah.
go right into it, and you're like that works, but you don't need the like hard scrabble. Life has been hard. My kids, my husband, like that's not part of the song. Like that's not making you walk into this and be like this should be funny.
Yeah.
That said,
Who's ready for 22 minutes of fun?
I know,
You
right?
don't hear that song.
Are we gonna see Van's
Time to
penis in
laugh.
this episode?
You know what's funny? Because I hadn't watched the show yet before I had prepped. And it's like I said, it's been years, so it's not fresh in my mind. And neither is that song. So in our chat, to peel it back for the, those of you listening, Ferg brings it up. Then Joe shows us he's got like the record for it. So I'm like, fuck it. So I play it. I'm in my car. So I go to just like on my Spotify just to play the song to hear it on the drive home from work. I'm like, this is what? This song is not great. I mean, not.
My life is changing fast. Who I am is yeah. It's just
And
like,
I will also say, in fairness, I'm not a big country guy, so I don't know.
I wanna be.
I don't know where it fits for big country fans. I know Reba is a big star in her own right.
the song is not by Big Country Jay. It's by Reba.
My apologies. I was curious, and I was hoping I'd find something reading up on it, but I didn't really know how Reba got to like be in the place where she was, starring in her own network television show.
Yeah, I didn't really see that either. Where like, Reba's always been very popular in like that world, and like again, I have one foot in this world, one foot out. I hate the sort of pop country world, but 80s pop country-ish stuff, I'm like, well, that's got a foot in stuff I do like. I'm not gonna shit on Reba or Alan Jackson, like sort of thing, but
Or
I
Jermaine,
don't what.
Jermaine Jackson as well.
But Tito can fuck himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I don't remember her being that overly present at that time. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Reba was everywhere and she was bound for a TV show finally.
Yeah,
She was the wife in Tremors, all right. And
Oh,
she
dude,
made
she's
a big
so good in
She made
Tremors.
a big impression in that, and they're like, she needs a sitcom.
But this is 10 years later.
Yeah, obviously the producer watched Tremors, so it's
I was gonna
like,
say, it's a real big impression.
That girl really shines. I'm glad you brought that up, though, because I hadn't looked, and I should have, because I was like, did she even act before the show came out?
Yeah, she's been about. I mean,
she's
Tremors is
great
probably the
in
biggest thing
Tremors.
she was in. R.I.P. Fred Ward just died, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very sad.
That's very sad.
And when I first heard, I don't know why I thought it was Bert, and I was really upset. The
That didn't he
character
just
Bert.
die too?
No, he's alive still. He
Burt
died
Ward
in
is still?
He died in the most recent Tremors movie.
Man.
I'm talking about the character Bert from Tremors, not Burt
Oh, they're talking about
Ward.
Burt Ward from Rocky because I think he just died.
Polly?
Yeah.
Is he? I
I
can't
thought he
remember now.
finally. I mean, I don't want to say finally. Like I was
Finally,
waiting
jeez.
for it. I fucking love Burt Ward, but I think that we all assumed he was dead because he was 100 when we were kids.
You could be right, and now I feel compelled to
I
check
think he
immediately.
just passed away.
Burt Ward is...
He's alive.
Oh, wait.
He's
Burt Ward-
77.
I got Robin from Batman.
Oh, that's what I'm
that's
looking
different.
at.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So, wait. So, Burt Ward
I love this
is-
tangent.
Yeah,
We just made it to the theme song.
he's alive,
What
he's
the fuck are we doing?
Burt Young is Polly.
Burt Young, thank you. Yeah, Burt Ward is Robin.
Oh,
You're
so
right.
it's Joe's
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Oh,
And-
surprise! It's Joe's fault.
And I believe Burt Young also alive.
Okay,
So,
I'm glad he's still alive. Then
good on
perfect.
you. But Polly's
82.
dead.
Burt Young, more like Gary Oldman. Am I right?
I wish he'd die.
Oh my god! Who doesn't love Gary Oldman?
I'm just kidding.
He plays Sid Vicious in Sid and Nancy, whose wife is Chloe Webb, who's the mom in Shameless, where you see Van's penis.
I actually mixed him up with the guy that sings the Toy Story theme song.
Gary
Randy Newman?
Oh, Randy
Gary
Newman.
Newman. Randy
Yeah,
Newman.
yeah. Tune in this week as we just
people
butcher everybody's names. It's just celebrity name jumble.
But if you want, we could just do Randy Newman karaoke.
But
Randy Newman, whose greatest role of all time was the singing bush in Three Amigos.
I think it's time we move on the intro of the show. So
Can we clock this? I just want to know how long we've been recording, and we're only
a while. We'll probably get a little snip at some point.
39 minutes.
Yeah. So here we are in the first scene of the show, and Cheyenne and her boyfriend Van and Brock are all sitting on the couch as like Reba's pacing back and forth reprimanding them. And to have to tangent again, this episode was shot on a redressed set of the Hughleys, who
Really?
Really?
So they thought the show was going to be canceled, so they used that set, and then I guess the Hughleys got picked up for another season, surprisingly. So then they had to create a like set on a different sound stage. So they had two matching houses, essentially. They're dressed differently, so it won't be super obvious, but the construct of them are exactly the same. That's where they recorded the first
I'll have
episode.
to check season 2 to see episode 2 to see if I noticed that difference. I didn't know that.
Yeah, have to take a mental note for when we do the Hughleys.
Well, I don't
I
even
know.
think from the way I read it, I don't think you would even notice a difference from episode 2 because they built two identical sets. That,
Like they just copied it basically.
yeah,
carbon
because when they
copy.
use the the Hughley set,
Great Hoogly Moogly.
great Hughley Moogly, they changed like all the furniture and stuff within it. It was just as far as the architecture was the same because they used the same setup. So the room to room would be identical.
And then you're totally fine for tangenting there because I've got a tangent in this scene too.
Okay. It starts by Reba saying, like, how could this happen? The first one to chime in is Brock, who's like, well, how do these things ever happen? Two people work together, the x-ray room's dark. Like, I was talking about them. They tell them that they thought you could only get pregnant once a month.
This is my tangent. So I had to peel the curtain back a little bit. I had been trying to get pregnant, right? So when you're trying to get pregnant, I was watching this the other day and I was like, that's not right. Because it is like a sitcom where it's like, today's the day. And you're like, oh my God, okay, I'm sorry. So I did some math on this. Okay, so call it 31 days in a month, right? So say a woman has her period for 5 days. Right. Even though you could possibly get pregnant on the last day of the period because of the way the ovulation works, just call it 5 days, right? So now you're down to 26 days, right? You're actually only in ovulation or where the sperm will stay alive for 5 days total out of the month.
Oh.
So Reba, who's in her 40s and has multiple children, has this math way wrong, where she's like, up, down, all around in a hot tub. Like, that's not how this works. It can't be every day first time you try. It's very specifically only really like 5 days a month. So Van is technically is closer to being right than Reba.
Yeah, kind of, but even when they say that, and I'm thinking like,
I wrote it all on a Post-it note so I wouldn't forget.
Oh.
Like a math equation, you can see.
so,
There's literally an X there where I did the times.
and although I doubt it, if any doctors are listening and want to chime in, by all means, give us a comment. S1E1 pod on Twitter or Instagram, chime in.
Just not Dr. Acula.
Let me come to your podcast.
So I'm thinking, even if that was true, right? Even if you can only get pregnant 1 day a month, they don't know what day that is. So
She does not seem like she's tracking it. And now they have apps and wristbands and what was your heat? I'm in a world right now. But there's all sorts of stuff to track it. I don't think in 2001 you could.
No.
they probably had some stuff, but not like today.
But not like we have now.
Yeah, but the smartest smartphone then was like a BlackBerry.
I don't even think we.
I don't
yeah,
even
we-
think that yet, because at this point I would have had my first phone, which had an antenna to pull out.
2001. I'm sorry, I'm thinking like
2001
Yeah, I
is
still have my
like,
Nokia.
we're still like freshmen, sophomores. Yeah, it's still very much the blue Nokia.
Yeah, this would have been the first phone I ever got. Would have been probably this year, and I only got it because I was going to New York. My parents were like, "We'll let you go to New York as a teenager, but you have to have a phone." And I was like, "Oh, cool! They can get something good when they stab me." That makes sense, because it's not like now where having a phone is second nature. You were like, "Oh, I have to worry about this $400 thing in my back pocket now." That's terrifying.
But then you could play Snake on the bus ride, so that was
That's true. Instead, I just played underage teenage drinker throw up on the Funghwa.
that sounds about right.
Better game.
Yeah, so as you said, Joe, Reba's like, oh, you can get pregnant anyway. First time, standing, sitting, all that. And then like the motel hot tub thing, her and Brock exchange looks, and which makes it obvious that is how one of their children came to be. I thought These two have a very weird dynamic. It's very tough to like pinpoint where they're at with one another.
Right, because they seem sort of flirty still, because they both like exchange a glance where they're like, remember that time in the hot tub?
They could joke around. They're there for each other. They hate each other. They're going through court issues because they can't agree on simple things. It's really tough to track these two and where they stand.
They have a lifetime of experience. They have 3 kids together.
Yeah,
that doesn't all go away just because love goes away.
It was a 20-year marriage. But I just mean their dynamic as far as like where they even sit with each other and like whether or not they get along. It was kind of tough to track.
Sex in a hot tub also seems very uncomfortable.
I know. I was thinking that too. That doesn't
seem appealing.
That's why you have a girl. So the heat burns away all the man sperm.
I blame the jets.
It's like, would I deny the opportunity? Probably not in the heat of the moment. But I wouldn't be like, that would not be my choice. You know, hey, let's head over there to where it's scorching hot. And
the only time the opportunity ever presented itself for me was the night of my wedding, where we had a hot tub in our room, and I was so drunk that I was just amazed because I'd never been in a hot tub like that before, and I was naked, and I was like, everything floats. And Kelsey was like, okay, time to put you to bed, bud. So we never got the opportunity. But I learned a valuable lesson about water buoyancy, and I'm proud to know it now.
Did not learn a valuable lesson in drinking too much and ruining the moment.
What was that? I'm back on new pills tomorrow, so I'm like 2 months off of booze. I'm really having a renaissance tonight.
The listeners are so confused.
Yeah, someone's gonna call like the cops on me. Check on that boy. Is he okay?
We also find out in the scene that they don't wear condoms, or they didn't wear a condom in that moment because no risk of STDs. It was both of their first time. And Van gets really embarrassed and starts giggling. I got a little kick out of that. Him
I did like that too.
Chuckling.
That's what his embarrassment was, that he was a virgin.
Yeah. They all keep arguing for a bit. And it's a lot of Reba processing kind of both things at once, because she always throws it back to Brock and bringing up how she put him through dental school. And it was like, well, that was 25 years ago. And Barbara Jean never brings up dental school. And she goes, she wasn't alive then. And it was like a good delivery, and I got a laugh from the audience. But
it's a good joke.
The payoff was not right. The payoff wasn't good.
But the joke doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why would Barbara Jean bring up dental school? Why would she ever even bring up, hey, your wife put you through dental school? It doesn't make sense.
He's basically saying Barbara Jean doesn't nag me about things. It doesn't specifically have to be dental school. That was just an example.
But I just thought the setup was, I just didn't like, you get the laugh, but when you think about the joke itself, I'm like, this doesn't track for me. This doesn't make enough sense.
Not to get too far ahead, but did you guys expect Barbara Jean to be much younger?
Yes.
For these
I do, yeah. When they say she wasn't alive then, you expect her to be like Cheyenne's age.
I have it written down later, but I'll just bring it up now since we're talking about it. Barbara Jean versus Reba, as far as actual age in real life, they're like 16 years different. But they don't look it. But Reba is 16 years older than her.
What's crazy too is I brought up that show, I think it's Malibu Country, Reba's most recent show. And it's just so weird how things are so different now. Reba looks younger on that show from a couple years ago than she does on this show.
You know what does it? Hairstyles.
Hair and clothing.
Yeah, watch Tremors. She looks older than now. And older than on Reba. She's got weird. the curly, like, bang, like, mom hair. Like,
yeah, she had the big mop of hair in that.
And then Reba tells Van that, you need to go home and tell your family, and then we're going to sort all of this out tomorrow. And on his way out, he looks over to Brock. He's like, sorry, coach. And Brock's like, oh, shake it off. Big game Saturday. And it's like, he just got your daughter pregnant, but it's like, hey, we got a game to play.
Like, most people would just have stabbed him to death already. You know what I mean? Like, that's
you touched my baby.
Also.
But I guess at least maybe you can forgive it a little that he's not being so mad because he's in such a weird spot too.
He seems just obsessed with the fact that he loves that he plays football and that he's good at it.
He loves college football and teeth. That's just, and
high school
younger
football.
Blonde women.
Also, I'm a brunette guy. But also, this is a little bit of foreshadowing. I didn't pick up on it in the moment, but reading back, big game Saturday. Not thinking about they're going to have plans on Saturday later down the road. And it it does come into play later, but
Some good writing.
Yeah, you'd have to catch it because obviously on the second watch really for me, I didn't pick up on that it does tie in. They do kind of warn you.
Also, I can't remember what's her name. I have it written down, but the woman who created this show was a writer on a bunch of shows, including ones we've covered, like Boy Meets World. So she like has written a lot of TV, and I think like that's one of those things where like an experienced writer throws that in there so that later on you get it and you're like, oh, they mentioned this and I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, it was smart writing there. And now the next scene, Reba's in the kitchen and she's making dinner for like the two youngest kids. Looks like grilled cheese night.
That's a great night. No, it's great with grilled cheese, soup.
Tomato soup?
I was going
I
to say,
prefer
it's only
chicken
like
noodle, but I will
chicken
give you
noodle
tomato.
soup and grilled cheese. That's a thing?
Chicken noodle soup and grilled cheese?
Yeah, I always knew tomato soup
It's
to
always
go with
tomato, man.
We always do chicken noodle soup or chicken on rice. But yeah, I love chicken soup and grilled cheese. That's like my go-to I'm not feeling well dinner.
You know what? It made me think too. Grilled cheese, right? It's the cheapest, easiest dinner to have. It's when you're cooking for like the kids and shit. But when I was a kid, if like my mom's like, "Oh, we're having grilled cheese for dinner tonight," that seemed like a special night.
Oh yeah, you're like, yes.
That's so much more exciting than when she spent all night cooking like a intricate dinner. I was like, grilled cheese night. This is amazing.
Yeah, like I beat your house around and be like, I made pork chops and all this stuff, and I'd be like, oh, what did you spend all day breading this and beating it? That's great. Yeah, we're getting pizza. I'd be like, we're getting pizza.
Can I have some Kraft macaroni and cheese, please?
Yeah. Kids are so shitty.
Grilled cheese night is just so fun. I don't know what it is about it. But Kira asks her mom, what am I supposed to call Barbara Jean once her and dad get married? And Reba like cracks a joke. Well, not really even a joke, but she's like, you're not supposed to call her anything. When you look at her at Walmart, you point and you say, there's the woman who stole my daddy.
I like the idea that she keeps that up, though, but, like, her whole life. So she's, like, 70 years old, and Barbara Jean's 90. She's like, there's a woman who stole my daddy.
Please leave me alone. We were in love.
And I'm like, leave my wife, Barbara Jean, alone. Jesus.
Barbara Jean is not my lover.
What's really weird is in the final season of this, she, like, 100% transforms herself. Where she loses, like...
knives or through...
No, she loses like 100 pounds. Like she's a completely different human being when she walks onto the episode. Like especially when you binge shows, and you're like, you watch season 5, episode 24 or whatever, and then season 6, episode 1. This different human being walks in, but still has the same voice, and is like, "Hey y'all!" You're like, "What the fuck just happened?" It is so
but she also
confusing.
balloons up before that too.
I think she got pregnant.
She got pregnant, so I think she gained some weight from there. Yeah, which is pretty. I mean, it's pretty standard.
It kind of, you saying that makes me think of like Chris Pratt in Parks and Rec when he got shredded.
Yeah, he just shows up one season, just being like a hunk, and you're like,
yeah, he was like, his whole thing was he was like dumpy and goofy, and then all of a sudden he's an action star, and you're not supposed to acknowledge it. Like they'll tell a quick joke, and that's supposed to be enough to not acknowledge the fact that he looks like a different human from now on.
In between those scenes is when that movie Zero Dark 30 came out, and it was like the summertime. I remember seeing the first commercial for it. It's like Chris Pratt as a wrestler, and he's like, "Are we really going to kill Osama bin Laden?" And I was like, "What the fuck just happened? Who is that? Chris Pratt?
Andy?"
Yeah, is that Andy? Is that Mouse Rat?
It was like Predators when they made Adrian Brody an action star.
Yeah. You're like,
Adrian Brody? What?
Look, I love
Jacked
Adrian Brody,
in
but
that.
that's not who he is. Have you seen that new Adrian Brody where he's the garbage man who kills everybody?
No.
I have not.
It's fucking awesome. It is so good. I forget the name of it, but I'll send it to you after this.
Don't forget, Chris Pratt also on the OC as Che.
Oh, yeah.
I feel
Unfortunately,
like
a show we can't cover for so many reasons. Not a sitcom, not remotely funny, and hour-long episodes, which we will never ever cover.
do. But if y'all gone back and watched the OC, I can't do it.
I like it still. I haven't watched it in a while, but I
I
still like
liked it when we watched it was it after SmackDown?
During SmackDown.
Yeah, we
just turn off wrestling because that was better.
That started off with, I'd have you all over for SmackDown. Me and Russ would leave to go watch the OC. You guys would make fun of us, and by the end, you were all in the room with us watching the OC.
Well, what happened was Ferg, who had, I think, just TiVo at the time, I think we're still in a pre-regular DVR world.
Yeah.
They ran on the same night. It was both Thursday night, and we would all go to Ferg's house and watch SmackDown, but they wanted to watch the OC, so they would like DVR it, watch it after. We got to a point, we're all hanging out. We don't want to go home. We're all, 15, 16, 17, I don't know, somewhere in that realm. So it's either go home or keep hanging out with my buddies and watch the show. And then somehow it just roped us all in. I think it got to a point where we started watching the OC live and then DVRing SmackDown and watching that after.
And fast forwarding through the bad matches, which is the way to go.
It's
anyway.
more time efficient.
Commercials.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what happened with Lost too. Like I didn't care about Lost at all, and like maybe Nick or somebody bought Nick from the show who's not here. Nick, I wish you were here for this story. Bought the first season on DVD, and we all watched it. And we were like, "This is kind of interesting, I guess," but I'm not gonna like follow up on this. And by like the fourth season, when people would be like, "We can't hang out tonight, we're watching Lost," you just like go hang out and be quiet. And after a while, I was like borrowing my roommate's computer to like watch it on like the NBC.com or whatever to like be like, I need to catch up on Lost.
I never watched it.
I remember nothing of it now. Lost. I loved it at the time. I don't know if I could rewatch it now, but I loved it then.
So to go back into the episode, as we need to do once in a while, Jake says, "Can I ask you something?" Reba's looking in, thinking it's going to be an important kind of heavy question because it's all about pregnancies and divorces and all this. And she's like, "Sure, what do you want?" And he says, "Can Brett come over on Saturday?" And then she says, "Have I mentioned you're my favorite?" And
starts the running gag this whole episode.
Yes,
you're my favorite.
Yeah, everyone gets a turn being the favorite. And I was thinking, how cool would it be if the family then adopted Brett and then he could be Bret Hart?
Oh, goddamn.
He'd probably be more charismatic than the real Bret Hart.
They live down the street from their sitcom neighbors, the Goldbergs, and Brett would just hate the Goldbergs so much.
Sorry to any of you who have no idea what we're talking about. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll get it.
Baseball wrestling sitcom mashup joke.
And the internet exists. Google it.
yeah,
Bret Hart hates Goldberg. Get on with it.
You'll get it.
He kicked his head like a football.
It's unsafe. So after talking to Jake, Reba starts transitioning, talking to Kira again, and kind of wondering if her daughter's not going to make the same decisions Cheyenne made, her older sister. And Kira's like, "Don't worry, Mom. I know all about birth control." And Reba says, "Oh, really? And what age is appropriate for a young lady to become sexually active?" And she says, 40. And Reba goes, "Have I mentioned you're my favorite?" So now that's 2. So now 2 children in a quick span have become the favorite child. I mean, 40, I guess, seems like the most logical time to start being sexually active.
I guess unless you want kids.
Life begins at 40. That's what they say.
Oh, this is 40.
And so now we get to Reba upstairs with grilled cheese in hand. Like, she's bringing a plate up to Cheyenne.
Fucking want a grilled cheese now.
I know. Watching
I wish we hadn't mentioned this.
Yeah, I wanted grilled cheese. So she's bringing one up to Cheyenne. When she opens the door to her room, she also sees it as an opportunity to talk to her a little bit because of everything happening. And Cheyenne's like, "Oh, I'm tired. Can we just talk tomorrow?" And Reba kind of suspects that something's up. So you get the like back and forth, and she's kind of looking into the room, and she says, "Van?" And then after a pause, "Yeah." And Van was hiding under the bed. Although there's 2 beds in there, right? So does she share a room with?
I wanted to bring this up. It doesn't look like she shares a room with Kira because none of Kira's stuff is in that room because they have very opposite personalities. So she just has like a married couple in the 50s bedroom.
Yeah, just in case for sleepovers.
Push the beds together.
I would have liked it if she caught him by like just playing off his like stupidity. Like if she was like, and you just hear knock knock, and the other.
Yeah, that could have worked.
That is a better joke. Yeah,
that's very sitcom-y. And when you discover that Van's hiding under the bed and he finally comes out, Reba's like, "Why is it we're the only house in Texas without a gun?" I think that was the first time you would realize they were from Texas. They show exterior shots of the city, but
the accent kind of gives it away.
Yeah, a little bit.
But she's from Oklahoma.
I can't look at a picture of Houston, like when they show the exterior like cityscape shots, and identify it as Houston. There's very few cities you could do that with.
The only town in Texas I can identify with the skyline is Dallas because they use it for movies so often. Like RoboCop is Dallas, right? Like the buildings are so ingrained in your head because you've seen them so many times because so many movies shoot there.
Although having been to Dallas a few times, it's not like there's not a lot of big notable monument type buildings that would flag you.
I think that's why it's so recognizable though, because there's like 3 of them, right? So when you see them, you recognize them because when they do those shots in those movies, it's like a straight shot on.
Dallas now, they rely on a lot of neon. There's a lot of neon on their buildings.
Which I
lights
love
going
since the
across.
80s too. When they did the second World Class Championship Wrestling opening from the late 80s, they would do the big thing where it was like ding 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 ding, ding, and then you go all through Dallas and you could see all that stuff.
I just envision Nick listening back to this episode and screaming every time wrestling comes
There's
up.
so much wrestling.
And so to go back, Van explains
Welcome back
to
to
Reba,
Virgin Pod. Good to be with you.
hey, no offense if you're holding out. That's commendable.
No, good for you.
Good for you. Start at 40. Van explains to Reba that his family kicked him out as soon as they found out about the baby, which, tough situation, to be honest.
I think, you know what, bonehead move. If he's that good at football, that's their fucking meal ticket.
Right, like
Yeah, I'd probably keep him around.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't get to the NFL, but he has a
know.
pretty successful football career outside of this. But you also find out his parents, he has a lot of money,
Yeah.
which he doesn't really express in this episode, but he does come from money.
Cheyenne tells Reba that, we're just talking. It's not like every time we're alone together, we hop into bed. I was thinking, like, does it even matter at this point? Like, what's the worst that could happen? You're already pregnant.
That
They
comes
make a
up
lot
later.
of jokes in this episode once you find out Cheyenne's pregnant about her getting pregnant again, which I think are really funny because it shows like her character. Like at the very end, they make a joke where it's like, we promise we won't get pregnant on this vacation, but she's like earnest about it.
Yeah.
He goes, don't worry, I brought a lot of condoms.
Like they're so dumb they don't get that it couldn't happen again.
You are already pregnant. Van says that he was going to wait until they were in private, but, I might as well just do this now. Gets on a knee and he proposes right in, front of Reba. They were in private a minute ago. He was waiting for them to be in private. Up until just now, they were in private.
They were in private with her mom not being there. Like it would have been way easier to. He also came up on a ladder, which is like some romantic shit, right? You go to the window on a ladder. Don't even
I
come
don't
in
know.
the room.
Sam from Clarissa Explains It All used to do it all the time. I never thought of it as romantic.
They did try to date, and it was awkward.
To be fair, Sam was cock-blocked. Sam wanted it, and Clarissa did not.
No.
We'll cover that show eventually too. Actually, that's I think definitely we'll do that one.
But do you know what keeps you from going a little too far? A goddamn pet alligator. That's why Sam never got on the
Elvis?
line. It's kind of
Stupid
smart.
Elvis.
Yeah. So during the proposal, he takes an earring out and puts it on her finger. So I guess he was wearing a big hoop earring that I guess I didn't notice, or at least big enough to be a ring.
He stopped at Claire's on the way in.
Yeah, it's like I never noticed him have that in earlier. But
Pirate.
I also thought that was like a failed opportunity because they keep boasting about how like successful he is at football. You'd think maybe he'd have like a state championship ring, like a big gaudy ring that he could put on her, like this giant football ring.
That is
Cornerback
smart.
can only take you so far.
Well, you still win the champ. Everyone gets a ring. They don't just give it to like.
What I'm saying is maybe he's not enough for them to win their
That's
championship.
true. That's true.
Right, but I think it makes more sense than an earring that weirdly is big enough to fit because, like, everybody here had their ears pierced at one point, right?
Nope.
Yes. Well, I
Oh, Ferg, you didn't?
No.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay, well, either way, Jay and I did. We both had hoops at one point. I don't think I ever had a hoop that would have fit over somebody's finger.
no.
Even a dainty finger.
I was gonna say even like a young girl, like no.
You didn't wear a hoop in your hoopty?
The
My space
hoop
hoop deal.
Again, listen to last week's episode if you haven't already. It's
but don't watch the episode. Just listen to ours. But
don't have to
watch
watch
the
it
TV
if you don't
show.
want, but it's an interesting show to cover at least. It's,
Don't make my
it's
joke
different.
make sense.
Yeah. So he says, I'll eventually get you a real ring. My grandma can't live forever. By the way, like his character is like, he really is played as a giant dummy. Like that.
Yeah,
most
he's
of his
just a big
lines.
dolt.
But that's the end of that scene. And then next we get to Reba, who's alone in Brock's office, and you hear like a quick knock and opening of the door, and that's when we meet Barbara Jean for the first time. And yeah, my first thought when I saw her, and we kind of talked about this earlier, was she doesn't look as young as I expected. Because they made it sound like he's ending up with this like really, really young girl. And although she really, in real life, is 16
Is
younger
than Reba.
she doesn't look 16 years younger when they stand next to each other. They look like
you
they could
would
have went to
think
school together.
like him being a dentist, she'd be the young medical assistant, like
Something
just
like
went
that,
To, like, what is it called? Those like schools you see for, like on TV all the time. The like dental,
Like correspondence school.
Yeah, it's like
But
fresh
yeah,
out
so
of that.
Not what I expected. And then also to go back, Joe, big Barbara Jean fan.
Oh yeah, huge babe.
Okay.
In all fairness, I take Barbara Jean over Reba.
Barbara Jean's a babe.
Um,
I'll die on this hill.
different taste. You know, that's looks are
different strokes for different folks. I always say.
Look, this is a multi-person podcast. There's a personality for everybody, but I've been steadfast when we started watching this show. Be like, Barbara Jean's a babe. I think she was less attractive when she gets all crazy looking at the end. I like this era Barbara Jean.
Again, different tastes.
And Melissa Peterman, if you're out there listening 25 years later, don't thumb my wife.
And for those of you who have been listening to this for a long time, also knows that Joe's first big crush was Rue McClanahan, who most of you would know as Blanche from the Golden Girls.
But, I mean, to be fair, Rue McClanahan is a babe in the Golden Girls, but I'm speaking specifically to Rue McClanahan, guest appearance on The Family, Rue McClanahan in Mama's Family.
Right, when she was only like 50, 60.
Okay, she's not that old. Look her up. She's not. First of all, okay, we can argue about this all day long. We had a whole argument about this.
Yeah, we've covered it. Go back, listen to Mama's Family if you want to hear when we first find out all this information about Joe.
It's like what we said about Reba, though. It's the hair. So back then, you look at Rue McClanahan's hair back then, she looked substantially older than she would for her age.
I think Barbara Jean, when we see her here, just gives off hardcore like mom vibes. And I don't mean like
pageant
you have a child
mom vibes.
But like your own, like you or your friend's mom, like just older, like that kind of, I made lemonade, like that kind. Not I physically just have a child, like, but if that makes any sense.
How does she look to you? Like she's produced offspring. Like, oh, well, I just can't be into her then.
Yeah. Barbara Jean's all excited. You know, she perceives her relationship with Reba differently than Reba perceives it back. And she's like, oh, you're going to be a grandma. And Reba goes, you're going to marry a grandpa. And she goes in like, I feel like giving you a great big hug. And Reba just fight it. And I liked how quick she snapped at her with that. And, you know, they separate. Brock walks in and he says, what is this? Cheyenne's not getting married. I'm not going to stand by and let my daughter throw her life away for that punk. And she's like, you love that punk. He's like, I do not. She's like, you watch him play football every weekend like he's your own son. Sometimes I think you like him more than our own son. And I just thought this was weird to me because Brock, he's a big fan of Van. We've established that. He's already taken the news about the pregnancy, and he hasn't been that angry about that when he heard it.
Yeah, he's aware. He knows what's going on. But
the wedding sets him off. The wedding part?
It's strange because he'd rather have a bastard child than have them get married. Like,
is that some weird finality to him for some reason? But maybe it's because he's going through a divorce where he doesn't want to see her get married. It's he's also getting married?
Yeah, he's also getting. It just seemed weird to me.
It's a confusing scene.
It was really weird because he handled the pregnancy thing pretty easy, but the wedding set him off. And I just don't see why. Now that you already know that she's pregnant, you know they're going to be in each other's lives forever anyways, right? So this is not that crazy. I had a hard time with that.
It didn't actually cross my mind until you brought it up now. Like, that is a weird thing to get upset about when the bigger thing should have been
all things
she got
considered,
knocked up. Like,
or she's having a baby, you're going to be a grandfather.
Yeah.
Should be a little more affecting you than
and that's what sets him off. Oh, you mean to tell me that this degenerate punk is trying to do the right thing and marry my daughter after he got her pregnant?
Also, you know, he's going through his midlife crisis marrying a younger woman. You'd think becoming a grandfather, that should have affected him a little more.
Yeah, maybe.
His midlife crisis.
Right, he's like, I'm trying to be young. Like, this is your grandkid. That should be the thing where he, like, dyes half his... He gets, like, a Brian Bosworth haircut or something. He does some sort of weird thing he shouldn't do.
He gets Barbara Jean to leave, and now it's just him and Reba alone in the office. Brock dead set against this, but Reba looks at this as like the only option. She says that they talked the night before, they kind of weighed everything out, and if they tried stopping them anyways, they were going to just elope. And then says the wedding date is set for Saturday at the house, which I was like, wait, huh? I can understand, okay, we're going to get married now, we're engaged, but
it does seem too quick.
We're rushing the wedding to this week.
Also, this is another thing. This show doesn't believe in, like, show don't tell. They do all this stuff, and they just tell you about it. It's like the beginning part. Now, there's this. They had this big talk about having the wedding, and it's this Saturday. Why not show us them having that talk? Like, it's a pilot, so just do a 2-episode pilot.
Yeah, I feel this should be a 2-parter. I think you're right. Like,
it's not
have
even
CW or whatever block out an hour and do this whole thing, and then have one whole episode be the wedding.
I just think it's more, it doesn't have to be a 2-part pilot. It's just spacing out some of these storylines. This doesn't all have to be in the first episode. With Reba, it was, I understand, hey, this is the reality of the situation. I need to accept it. But it seems like she's rushing this wedding now. To have it this week,
it does seem very rushed.
Why not be like, okay, I get it. You know, you guys are getting married. I can't do anything to change your minds. Well, let's plan it and we'll set it up and kind of buy yourself some time, give them some time to think about it because they are about 17.
At least a month.
Yeah.
Like, let's set something up and invite family over.
He's like, he proposes to her and Reba's like, huh? All right, yeah, we'll have the wedding this week. Okay. Like, that's not how that works at all.
Well, you have to remember Reba's life is falling apart, and I think she's using all this to distract herself away from her own life. So she's trying to just plan a bunch of stuff all at once.
Stay busy.
It's like when she finally crashes later and like cries, and when she yells at the husband and stuff. It's just everything she's trying to like block out for other people's lives are a distraction, and it all just crashes in.
This was a joke coming up that I didn't get, and maybe you guys can help me with this one. So as they're going back and forth with this is when Brock says, isn't this where we send her to visit a friend for 9 months?
Okay, so that is, she goes and has the baby, comes back, and you pretend it's Reba's baby.
Yeah.
That's what something like parents do when their teenagers get pregnant in high school.
I figured it was like a disappear so no one sees her pregnant. But
yeah, or she comes back and somebody adopted a baby, or our sister you never met died giving birth, and here's the baby. Like, they always work some weird story around it that's way more convoluted and terrifying than should be just like they were pregnant.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess like in the context it was used in, it was thrown in as like too lighthearted of a quick joke, but it makes sense. Brock insists that he's not going to be going to this wedding, and she just keeps kind of replying by telling him like, no, like, wear your blue suit, bring ice. She's just ignoring him. So every time he's saying no, she's just, it's kind of like when he first said, I'm getting married. He's like, nope. And she just kind of avoids it and keeps moving forward.
She really harps on the ice.
Yeah.
I'm a person who loves ice. I get that. Today I was in the convenience store on the way home. I had to run errands. And I heard the person say, do you have any ice? And the guy behind the counter said, there's literally no ice in the whole county right now. I don't know what happened. The ice factory near here break down. Either way, I have an ice maker in my fridge. And I was like having a mental breakdown for these people. If all of a sudden I had no ice, I would have a tough go of it. I drink ice in my water, ice in my coffee, like all day long.
Here's my thing. I love ice cold drinks, but I drink very, very fast. So if I go somewhere and get a drink and it's full of ice, I just feel like I'm getting half the drink.
I mean,
like
you are, but that's also the social contract.
Yeah, but if you just give me less ice, I get more drink because I'm going to drink it before we get to the point where I need the ice to really kick in.
Are you talking about booze or are you talking about any drink?
More like if I was drinking, say, like an iced coffee. Or
Okay.
I don't really drink a lot of soda, but something along those lines.
Okay,
Boozy
I
drinks
get that
need
more
to stay
for that,
ice cold for me. Like, I can't, if I have a gin and tonic start to get warm, like, I'm not okay with that.
I
don't drink those as quick as I drink a coffee.
Yeah, I do put a lot of ice in all of my drinks. But I was going to say, at a bar, it's a different scenario, right? Because they're trying to...
Well, I guess depending on where you go, they measure the booze out. Or at least there's a count, when they hold the bottle up. So not putting ice in it, just like if you drink like bourbon neat or something like that, they're not going to fill the cup more because there's not ice in it.
They're doing their shot of bourbon into it.
They're going to do like a 4 or 5 count, whatever it is, and you're getting the same amount.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan.
And I'm Steve, and together we host the Stop Ruining My Childhood podcast.
A sometimes nostalgic, sometimes cynical, always humorous look back at pop culture.
Join us as we rewatch cartoons, movies, and live-action TV of the 80s and 90s and ask the question,
Does this hold up, or did I just ruin my childhood?
each week we talk about our childhood memories,
And dig into the history of everything we watch, sharing fun facts about how things were made and how they were received at the time.
more importantly, we always start our show with a nostalgic snack review.
Which is really our favorite part.
Episodes drop every Thursday on Podbean, Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, YouTube.
Really, wherever you get your podcasts.
So like, subscribe, and follow.
And revisit your favorite childhood memories with us. All the links to listen are on our website, stopruiningmychildhood.com.
And now in the next scene, Reba's alone in a room with her old wedding dress out, and I guess she's planning to have Cheyenne wear that at the wedding. And the middle child, Kira, I'm sorry, I knew I was going to do that eventually. Kira, she walks into the room, and Reba tells her, one day you can wear this dress too if you want. She's like, oh, a divorce and a teen pregnancy, some track record.
That's a good one.
I thought that was a good line.
It's a good joke. It's always a weird thing when people are like, do you want to wear a ring? Be like, your dad and I had it or whatever. But like, but you got divorced. Like,
Yeah, that's I view that as bad luck now.
that seems like I love the sentiment, but
it didn't work out, so I don't want a symbol of that one on me. Yeah.
They should have just made it like her family wedding dress, like she got it from her like mother or something. That way you can explain passing it to the next generation rather than, oh, this is from my failed marriage.
This was
Right.
Mama's dress.
Mama's dress.
And the two start kind of going over wedding details, and that's when Van and Cheyenne enter. And Van jokes that he got the suits that were Wildcat Orange, that's the team he plays for, which did trick Reba, and Van's very excited because apparently his jokes never work on anyone. So the fact that he actually got her, he was very tickled by. And
I assume that would have been like the suits from Dumb and Dumber.
I was thinking like Dumb and Dumber's in my head. You tell me orange suit, obviously I'm going to think Dumb and Dumber.
Right, like that's like the go-to, like the orange suit from Dumb and Dumber.
For sure. And Cheyenne also shows Reba the dress that she got and says it's more like my style. Reba's like, well, I thought you were going to wear my dress. And she's like, well, yeah, I planned to, but I thought I was going to be old when I got married. And that got like a nice dirty look from Reba.
The thing is, Reba's dress isn't super old-fashioned.
No, not at all.
It's a pretty modern
thing.
dress.
So, like,
yeah.
It's not
like a
even like
modern
really,
dress.
it's not even much of a
fit.
wedding dress, to be honest with you.
But I also
not
feel
in
like
the,
you
not in the
fit.
traditional sense.
Reba's pretty young still in this episode. I mean, like, Reba's a young woman in this comparatively, right? And she has a 17-year-old daughter. She takes offense to that in a way that you wouldn't if you have 17-year-old kids, right? Like, I'm sure I called my parents old when I was 17 and they were 40. You know what I mean? And now as I barrel down on 40, I'm like, oh, I don't think they're ever mad, like, how dare you call me old? I think
Right, yeah.
your parents just get the, like,
Oh, no, it
it's-
stings.
yeah, like she gets like offended. She's like, "Oh, I'm old, am I?" It's like that's not how you'd act. And this wouldn't be the first time she said something like that. It would have been every other week, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a quick one, a quick little. It was to get the pop. To say, Kira chirps in and she's telling her, if you add some elastics to that dress, you can, wear it to prom in 9 months too. Another good here's sarcastic Kira. Same with Dana, like we said from Step by Step. Every time she opens her mouth, it's going to be to say something sarcastic.
I felt like it was overdone with Dana, but I don't think they overdid it as much with.
Toy to line.
Yeah.
It didn't quite get to that point of annoyance, but it was there. I think if she was in the episode more, it would have bothered me.
I will say all I thought of in this scene was I'm so glad I wasn't pregnant at our prom, because being the prom king would have been so much harder to rule above all of you if I had also been pregnant.
I will name it Junior. But yes, to those unaware, Joe, our reigning prom king.
Still raining, right?
Thankfully, to the fact that our high school just drew a name on it.
I love people are like, wait, you were prom king? How'd that happen? I'm like, name out of a hat. And everyone just
Raffle
goes,
style.
Oh, okay.
You need
Like,
to
it's
make up
not a
stories,
question.
Joe. You should be like, well, in high school, I could throw a football over a mountain, man.
It's like,
You don't know.
did you ever see Rookie of the Year? I really had a funky butt loving pitch in my right arm at the time.
Thinking back now, I wonder if Joe truly had his name drawn out or a teacher thought it would be funny.
Or
My
like
teachers
some
weren't that
teacher,
smart.
like blank teacher who fucking hated me was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Or maybe blank teacher who was like, maybe we'll show Joe an adult lesson.
More like the king of shit.
Fuck that guy. Yeah, well, fuck that. It's still raining, right? Because I think I don't know if they still do prom kings at places and prom queens. It seems
I'm
like
sure.
it's got to be an outdated thing at this point. But I think our
you gotta
school
do
stopped
it.
doing it.
I don't know. I don't talk to a lot of kids in high school, so I don't know. And I don't have kids myself, so I don't track that stuff.
I'll ask my nephew. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I have my nieces and nephews are just young enough that they're not there yet.
Yeah,
and
we're miles away at my house.
if somebody was to meet me in high school, I'd be like, nice to meet you, sir, and then run away. Because I don't even know what to say to somebody who's 15 years old, you know?
You'd run away?
Yeah, I'd be afraid I'd say the wrong thing or something be weird. I'm terrified of kids now.
9/11. Ah!
Yeah. I heard a kid skateboarding the other day through my window, and it's like a very unique, like, you know the noise when someone's on a skateboard, right? And I was like, yeah, and I looked out the window, and this kid looked like he was probably like, I don't know, 14 and could still beat the shit out of me, you know? And there's part of me that wanted to be like, rock on, dude! No. The other part of me was like, just close the shade and let this kid have his moment and like just walk away from it.
You should have invited him in and taught him music. It could have been like Finding Forrester, only with music.
Do you want to play guitar? You like beer? The kind of joke get arrested and misrecording this week.
You're the man now, dog. So, Van tells Reba that he talked to his family and they're not going to be coming to the wedding. But his uncle did give him the key to their vacation house for a few days so they can have a honeymoon. So long as they don't go in the basement. Bodies in it? Or what's in the basement?
That's a
was more
weird
of the
reference
joke.
because, like, they don't give you any hint to it. It's not like, oh, it's my Uncle Kevorkian. You know what I mean? Like, if there's something like that, like, or my Uncle Bundy, my Uncle Kruger. Like, if they gave you something where you were like, oh, I get the joke they're making, but they're just like, it's my uncle. But, like, most people have uncles who don't have basements that are hidden. So
yeah,
you're
it
just
was
left
it
to
almost made the
wonder.
joke too serious.
Yeah.
Like, is it like a sex thing or is it a murder thing? Because it's one or the other.
I always think a murder thing is where my brain goes, but it could
It's
have went
sex,
either.
it's
yeah.
sex, murder, or, like, illegal liquor, I guess.
Cut to reality. I just really need to dust my basement. Oh my god, I'm so
My
embarrassed.
my basement's such a mess.
My figurines are covered in dust, and I feel so bad about it. This doesn't look anything like Gettysburg like it should.
He has an antique train set that he doesn't want them touching.
Don't knock over my Legos.
So Cheyenne
It's a
also
trestle
asks-
bridge.
Cheyenne asks if she can get a permission slip so the two can miss school for their honeymoon, which Reba obviously acknowledges the odd irony in just that sentence and putting those words together for permission slip and honeymoon being somehow linked. And Cheyenne's like, getting married is so much fun. We should have done this junior year. And Reba's reaction, like, no, honey, you were smart to wait. I loved.
Those quick lines in this episode, or the show in general, are what make the show so funny. It's
She had a
those,
really
quick
nice, like,
throw them at you.
deadpan. Yeah, she dry delivered that, which was like, I thought it was really good. Next day, we're at the wedding day, and Reba, Cheyenne, and Van are all in the kitchen. The other kids eventually make it into the room, and Jake is with his friend Brett, who Reba forgot about, and said that he could come over. And Brett goes, my mom told me to tell you I throw up when I eat olives. She's like, well, then don't eat any. Oh, he already did. And I don't know, first, it's the weirdest exchange in the entire episode. Also my favorite. I don't know why I loved it
It's
so
very
much.
funny. It's a real I die scenario with this kid.
It's just the most random food item. Like,
I mean, like, I wouldn't throw up. I mean, I would throw up if I ate an olive, but not because of, like, a allergy. I just think
don't like
olives are
olives,
so
yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah, same.
We
just
always
the
have them
olives.
out for Thanksgiving because half of my family really likes them. And for a while, our cat, R.I.P. Buckaroo, that was, like, his favorite thing. He just wanted to lick olives and then just bat them around the house. And then, like, 2 days later, I'd be like, trying to pick them up because the smell is so gross to me.
old olives dried up. Yeah.
Oh, it's so awful.
of all the food, like just thinking that this kid throws up every time he eats olives, but loves them so much that whenever he's around them, which I don't know, I'm not around olives that much that it would
Not that
become an
often.
issue. But
I will say
apparently-
though, I hated the trend that happened for a while that I think Bertucci's still does. I don't think this is a regional reference. I think Bertucci's is a national chain. But Bertucci's is always like, here's your delicious pizza, and here's a fucking giant olive in the middle of it. And you're like, how fucking dare you? No, I gotta cut a circle around this pizza, because I will not eat the tip that touched this olive,
well,
you
a lot
dickheads.
of what they used to do at a lot of pizza places, and I think it's kind of a lost thing anyways, but they would always put one mushroom, one olive, one pepperoni in the middle as a guideline for the
How to
cuts.
cut, yeah.
So they could see where the center of it was.
And now it's just like, we put an olive and a pepperoncini in the box, and we drove around through every bumpy street we could,
now
and the
everything
whole
tastes
thing's
like
a
it, yeah.
nightmare. Good luck.
And
But
Who eats a pepperoni?
We're in the minority here, though. Most people love olives.
a lot of people love olives.
That's true. It's a very beloved. I mean, Kelsey loves olives. Whenever she opens
hate
them,
them.
like I can't sit next to her. When she opens a jar of them, that giant waft of like just
Yeah.
opened olives, I can't be in the room.
It's like somehow they got to sneak in for the Supreme Pizza like grouping.
It's like, no, we were all meats and cheeses, and
Yeah.
you threw
Everything
olives
was fine,
in?
and then
Fuck
you
off.
added olives to the party. Everything else was okay. I could have done with everything else. So Reba eventually ends up in the kitchen with Kira, and she gets like a call from the Reverend. So I'm sorry to go back. Like everyone kind of disperses, right, for various different reasons. So it's just the two of them in the kitchen now. She gets a call from the Reverend confirming like if the wedding's still on, and also asking about the open bar.
I do love that joke where like you don't meet the Reverend ever, but he's a drunk. So that's fun.
The oven timer goes off during this, and she's like running around trying to like multitask, and eventually gets Kira to open the oven for her. But apparently the extra 10 seconds from when the timer went off was enough to completely torch the food.
You know, as cooking usually goes, 10 seconds makes all the difference.
Again,
Only baking.
it's one of those things that for the purpose of the show, if I was to tweak the scene, I would have had it where there was no timer that went off with the oven. Like it shouldn't have been, the timer went off 10 seconds past, everything.
Smoke should have just come out of the oven.
It should have been she completely forgot about it until smoke or something came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to say she was so overwhelmed that she set the timer wrong. She's trying to do too much at once.
That could have been true as well.
I like that, Ferg, actually. That's good. That's a good excuse.
She's like, they're ruined. And Kira's like, just like our lives. And she
Get it?
tosses, she tosses the burnt whatever it was, along with the baking sheet in the trash, which was just a wicker basket with no bag.
I was expecting a fire.
Also, first of all, I mean, like, if she put nothing on the baking sheet, like if she had no tin foil or no
Parchment paper.
parchment paper, you're just going through metal pans all the time with stuff on them. That's a waste. But also, yeah, something comes out of the oven so hot that it's burnt, and you toss it into a wicker basket with just regular house shit in it.
It just
Gotta cause a
bothered me.
fire.
It bothered me so much that there was no trash bag. It was one of those. First off, I'm like, that's not a trash barrel. And then the fact that it's like a decorative wicker type basket. Like it was one of those. If you put food items in it, it's gonna leak out first off, and then
Oh yeah.
It's gonna
The wicker
stain it.
baskets, notoriously civvy. There's holes everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. Like if you walked into a Pier 1 Imports when those were still around, they'd be like, "Well, you're not going to go to Target and buy a plastic trash barrel when you could buy one of these beautiful rattan trash barrels. Like it's got holes. It's not a barrel."
So there needed to be a bag there, but whatever.
Trying to figure out what she was cooking. They were like big triangles like pizza, but it
Yeah,
was
I
like
couldn't figure
just
out either.
flatbread because there was nothing on top of it.
I thought it was like a puff pastry, maybe.
Yeah, I tried giving it a look, and it was too quick and not obvious. Obviously, it was also burnt, so it was you weren't getting a good visual.
That's true. Yeah, but just burnt triangles.
After that, she kicks Kira out, and now she's sitting at the table with just her hands on her head, and she finally breaks down. And she's crying, and as this starts, Brock happens to walk in through the kitchen door and sees her and gives her like a big hug.
That's when I cried.
Really?
When she broke down finally and started crying on the thing, and he walked in and she looked up and had the tears in her eyes, I lost it.
Oh my God.
I'm surprised because I'm a big crier and that one didn't get me. All I could think of was, I don't know if it's my TV or not, but that looks like he's wearing a black suit.
I thought it was
the
blue.
It's not the blue suit.
I thought it was blue.
It does look like the blue suit to me, and I thought that he was like, that was his breaking point where he's like, Reba, I'll come, but you can't tell me what suit to wear anymore.
I didn't read that. Also, I can't get past the fact that Ferg cried at that scene. I just don't find it to be that sad.
I mean, it is sad. I do feel for Reba in that scenario, right?
She has a bigger breakdown later.
Yes, but this is everything finally crashing in on her. It was the emotional breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, these last 5 minutes are her, like, accepting the divorce.
Oh, yeah, it's that moment where, like, it comes crashing down and it hurts inside.
So it hurts her pride, is what you're saying?
Yeah. And, she can't let it slide. So they're hugging, and
Fuck
during
you,
the
Nick.
hug,
I hope you're editing this one. Fuck you, Nick.
so as they're hugging, she like looks up and sees Barbara Jean standing in the doorway. And she's like, there she is, the mother of the bride. And she's like, you were only supposed to bring the ice.
I do love that line. She's so bummed out that Barbara Jean came.
Yeah.
I'm excited, but Reba's sad.
And during this, they hear yelling from the other room. So they head over there and they find that Cheyenne and Van are now fighting. And Cheyenne tells them the wedding's off. She never wants to see him again. And she's mad because Van's plan is after the wedding, he's going directly to the football game to play the game. And like I said, there was foreshadowing earlier because they did talk about that there would be a game Saturday.
Now, this threw me off because, I mean, again, I never went to a high school football game because I just didn't give a shit, obviously. I don't like football and I hated high school. But those were always Fridays, right?
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, Friday Night Lights. Like, that's the big thing. Yeah, like Saturday high school football
Sometimes
game?
scheduling. You never know. I guess it's not a rule. But
If anybody out there has some knowledge on this they can spread to us, I'd appreciate it. Because I literally have always thought that Friday was high school, Saturday was college, Sunday is pro.
Yeah.
That's like the 3 days of football.
For the most part, yeah. But I'm sure there's
I'm not wrong
exception.
there, right?
Yeah, but I'm
There's
sure
exception.
the writer of this show maybe didn't get that memo. Oversight.
Maybe, but still, you think that like show that takes place in Texas, like you'd have that little bit of knowledge, or somebody in the writer's room. If I, who don't watch football or follow football,
yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean? Like that seems like a weird one to me.
And yeah, so they're going back and forth about this, and she's like, "You love football more than you love me." He's like, "I know, I love you both the same," which was like a nice little. You get that ooh from the crowd. Then he corrects himself. "No, I love you way more than football." We find out the coach says that if he misses the game, then he's getting thrown off the team. And Reba's like, "He can't excuse you this one time." He's like, "Well, I'm really good." And then Brock, you're the assistant coach. You can't get him excused. "Oh, well, he's really good." But
yeah, this is the bullshit scene. Also, like, this goes to this is the weird disconnect to me where, like, look, when you're in high school, I guess you think everything about your life at that time is crazy important, and the idea of being kicked off the high school football team is a big deal, but you are getting married to your pregnant girlfriend. Like, I feel like you should have the presence of mind to be like, something bigger is at foot here.
Right. Also,
I'm going to say this, though. He's not the smartest person in the world.
Right.
That is true.
Going to college relies on him football. Going to NFL relies on football.
That's fair.
One might argue
right.
it's
Yeah,
equally important for him.
His future depends on...
Here's my thing. If he's as good as everyone says he is, he's not going to get thrown off the team.
No, it's an idle threat.
Yeah.
Right, he could miss a game. I mean, what happened if he broke a fucking finger, right? Like,
But
I guess you'd be sitting on the bench to show solidarity or something, I guess. I don't really know.
If he said, "Sorry, coach, I really have to sit this out. That's important to me," even if he's like, "Well, I'm going to have to kick you off," by next week, he will still be on that team.
They should have made it a championship game or something he couldn't miss.
Yep.
Not just a random game.
Yeah, add more importance to it, for sure. That would probably help.
Now, imagine if the coach came in and they had a scene here where they're arguing and he's like, "It's not my fault. It's Cheyenne's." And the coach said, "I don't want your wife."
So Van's like, "We can go to the
And then Van
honeymoon."
comes out with a Ferg bikini on.
Yeah. Van says, "We can go on the honeymoon after the game." And she throws something at him, which makes him bump into Barbara Jean, who then falls into the wedding cake. And this starts like everyone wrestling around, and eventually gets to a point where there's like a near pull apart, and Cheyenne's dress gets ripped. And when that happens, she runs right upstairs. And then
Also, another very Animal House scene where we have a food fight.
If it was Animal House, the titties would have been out when this thing got ripped.
Well, I think the CW was probably opposed to that happening.
And it's very much established in the show that she's 17. But
Hey, they're all teenagers in American Pie, but their titties are in that.
that's true.
I guess that's true.
Again,
But I think that's, I mean, at that point, though, you're right. This is 20 years ago. I don't think they would do that. But 20 years ago, they would.
let's not over dissect that. Let's
I'm
just move
just saying,
past
if it was Animal House, that's what would have happened. I'm not
Sure.
saying.
No, sure.
They were in college, Animal House.
In any event,
No one ever went to class, and we saw Donald Sutherland's ass. Now you can proceed, sir. Thank you.
So during this, Reba then yells to Brock, "This is a wedding. You're ruining it. You ruined everything. We were supposed to grow old together." And then runs up the stairs herself because it got incredibly awkward. And
It takes a real dark turn here.
well, here's my thing. And to me, I just think the whole wedding story and the Reba dealing with her husband marrying someone else it's just way too much for one episode. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's too chaotic. They mumbled this throughout the whole episode, and that was kind of an issue for me. It was a lot of her always sneaking lines in. They were talking about one thing, but she kind of would like make off comments to remind you that's also happening. Again, we didn't need all of this for episode 1. This could have all been established over the first handful of episodes, but they just wanted to put way too much in this one episode. I just thought way too much.
I do like that you finally get some emotion from Reba, though. She's angry, but like I'm glad she breaks down and be like, "Look, this sucks. I'm going through divorce, and this is not what I expected."
Right.
And by the way, you brought your goddamn new wife to our wedding. You know, like that.
But
I do appreciate it because
on,
I wouldn't want just sarcasm in this scene.
Let's focus on a little bit of that maybe first, and then eventually we get to the Cheyenne's pregnant, they're having a kid. It didn't all have to be episode 1. This could have all been revealed over the first handful of episodes.
I agree.
But
to be fair, just going in the future, this show really spins into like very classic sitcom where every episode's just like a here's today's situation.
I just think they felt the need to establish everything right away to get to that point when you don't really need to. You could take a few episodes to like build the set. So anyways, Reba runs up and she heads to Cheyenne's room where she finds her just kind of like laying in bed with her stuffed bear. And she's telling her mom, "How did this happen? I'm co-captain of the drill team. I'm supposed to be practicing the new routine for tonight's halftime show, not getting married and having a baby." And Reba's telling her about how she's so out of the junior league with having a pregnant teen and a court-mandated therapy.
I tried to look into this. I couldn't find out what that
I had no idea what that meant. I was hoping one of you guys would. Like, I have no idea what that is.
I looked it up. I didn't know if it was like a Texas thing or if it was like a Rotary Club type
Some
thing,
sort
but I
of
couldn't
group
really
she's
figure
involved
it out.
in. Yeah, but I could not, for the life of me. I'm like, I don't know. I wish he just said the church group or something, or like the parents PTA or something. You know what I mean?
It's
Simple.
clearly something religious because the pregnant daughter, unmarried, would lead to that being an issue,
I can
right?
see
Like
that.
otherwise it wouldn't. If it was just a social group, it wouldn't be an issue. But
And Cheyenne's like, "Well, I guess your life is ruined too." And Reba pauses and then tells her daughter, "Stand up," and has her look in the mirror with her. She's like, "Tell me what you see." "I'll tell you what I see. A couple of losers." And she's like, "Mom?" She's like, "No. Well, what do you call two people who mourn the rest of their lives because things didn't turn out the way they planned?" She goes, "Losers. Because as we've learned, excuses are for losers."
My daughter gave me the finger.
I know you guys are probably thinking, we need more tangents, but yeah.
we need more references to these idiots in high school.
Yeah, but in high school we had a motivational speaker who his big line was "excuses are for losers," and here we are 20 years later still talking about it. So I guess something stuck, right? He did his job right.
Yeah, he's still there.
My daughter
And if
gave me
Tom
the
Petty
finger,
was
which
right
the
about
finger,
anything,
the thumbs up, not the finger you're thinking of.
man, he thought we were gonna respond to that, and we all just were like, bah.
I am fairly sure I was kicked out of that one.
I think you were, yeah.
I think I was kicked out of that one. I don't remember what I did, but something I would have done at that age, I guess. So now anyways, it's time for them to face reality. It's time for Cheyenne to balance her life around football, and it's time for Reba to learn how to get her own ice. Ice, again, very important to her.
It's very important. I also made a note here, too, where, like, I love seeing set dressings for people's bedrooms, especially, like, teenagers or kids in shows like this, because sometimes you'll get really interesting stuff, and it's usually the taste of the person who is doing the designing.
I kept trying to track those posters, and I could not figure out with one of them. Like, they were very, something witching, right?
There's definitely not a band who's just called Design, which has 3 brooding boys looking sideways. That's definitely not a band. I tried to find it. Like the fake boy
band, called Design.
But she does have a license plate on her wall that I wrote down because I laughed so hard that just says "Nuts for You" and UTC letter number 4 U, and I laughed so hard at that. And like you can see it so clearly when Reba's like, "We're not losers." It's just like "Nuts for You" is so big in the shot. It was like, oh come on.
See, Gordo, you wanted to miss this one.
Yeah, I know, Gordo, you ruined it.
And then she says, what me and your father had is over, and it's never coming back. And Barbara Jean she's not going to drown in a giant vat of Crisco oil.
Would watch.
And she's like, Mama's got a dark side. It was a little out of place. Also,
I love her accent, though, when she says those things like, Mama's got a dark side.
Something about
so good.
Crisco, to me, feels so Southern.
Well, Crisco's like just fat. So drowning in Crisco, I would rather drown in a million other things I hate. I would probably rather drown in olive juice than I would rather drown in Crisco.
But like, I can't think of, like, again, I'm very aware of Crisco, but I don't think we've ever had it in my house. It was never something growing up that was like used for cooking.
It's always the kind of thing where they go to like a Southern movie, right? Like the scene where Joe Pesci is ordering grits in My Cousin Vinny, and he just takes a big vat of fat and like slams it down on the flat skillet and it burns. And he's like, don't you ever know about cholesterol? Like, to me, that's what Crisco is. It's not a thing like people have. It's like that, or it's used in movies for like, it's like in exploitation movies where it's like somebody's gonna have sex with somebody and like slathers themselves in Crisco. Ugh. Yeah. Either way, terrible.
It's always like the way to like make your baked goods more unhealthy.
Yeah. I remember once, Ed, who was when we all worked at the gas station, a big chunk of us, me and Nick and a few other people, Ed came back from somewhere. He was like, I had the greatest potato chips of all time. They actually cook them in lard. So it was like, okay. And like the bag of potato chips weighed like 100 pounds. And when you opened it, it had less potato chips than a regular bag of chips would. It was that so like dense. They were just so dense. And you took one bite and you were like, oh, I get it. This is really, really good. And then you took the second chip and you were like, we're going to die. Like, this is not, you couldn't do this. It's not, like, even your brain knows, like, stop right fucking now.
So, Reba keeps on with this pep talk and eventually gets her, like, back on board with the wedding. Cheyenne, that is. And then she tells her, I can fix that dress up for you pretty easy. And Cheyenne's like, actually, I thought it might be nice to have some tradition at the wedding after all. And asks to wear her mother's dress. So they hug, and Reba says, as long as you wear a bra. Because I think I did go past it earlier when...
We skimmed over the bra joke.
Yeah, there was a bra joke earlier because when Van saw her in her original dress, said, I told you look better without the bra. So now Cheyenne says, hey, Ma, I hate Barbara Jean's dress. And that's when we get the third and final child hearing, have I told you you're my favorite? And then we
get a montage.
I didn't like that at all.
I don't like the montage. I love this show. Montage I did not appreciate. I get that they wanted to throw in another Reba song, though. Like, that makes sense.
That's fine. My issue is this whole thing's a build-up to the wedding, but we didn't save enough time for the wedding. So the montage was the ceremony. And it's like, again, this is why this needed to be multiple episodes. The wedding, that should be an important scene. You can throw a couple jokes in there, but usually it's you get your nice sentimental spots. But we just blow past it so we can play a Reba song real quick. And it doesn't stop until post, ceremony when it's just the photographer.
It would have been better if it was a California Dream song.
Yeah, if you cut to a 5-minute music video, then for sure.
I'm not going to say no to that.
But, yeah, so it gets to the photographer saying, hey, can I get a picture of the family? Ferg, I think, mentioned it earlier. As they all jump in for the pose, don't worry about the honeymoon, Mrs. H. I packed lots of condoms, which gets a very bad photo because she's reacting to that.
Which I love, though, that he's
that's fine.
So stupid.
And then after that, Barbara Jean runs in to take a photo with them, which causes a second bad photo, but she's like super mugging in it. And that was how like the episode ended. I don't know. I thought it was a good joke and the good end. Like that was a good button to end it on. But I hated that it was like we ran out of time. Let's just get through the wedding real fast and tell the last joke and get out of here.
Yeah, I would have done with the montage and the theme song, or not the theme song, the other song. I think it's "Walk On," the Reba song. But
It is.
I think you're right. Like, I love this show, but I think you're right. Like, this should have been everything leading up to the wedding, and the second episode should have been 22 minutes of just the wedding.
Yeah,
That's how most of it comes to, and it works.
I felt gypped because we missed out on meeting that priest who really wanted the open bar. I mean, you could have been somebody funny and an alcoholic.
How many fun character actors could you have pulled in to do that? That's where a show like that 70s show does a great job, right? Where like
I would have had John Lovitz as the priest. And then when Reba has a freak out, he would have went, "How awkward!"
A big horny priest. Like, they're all for it.
Dude, I was worried. I was like, are we only going to mention John Lovitz once in this episode? We should find a way to get him back in here again.
Can we pay the whatever stupid amount of money it costs to get a John Lovitz cameo for business so he can be like, "I don't care about your podcast," and we'll pay like $1,000 for it.
Acting? But yeah,
trying to find a podcast that can move and shake like this.
Did you pay $1,000 for cameo? Yes, I did.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think this was it was a giant build up to nothing because they blew past what the whole show is building up to. And I just think if you focused on, we just need a little time to like really delve into both. We need a little bit more her relationship with Brock, and then we need a little bit more of the Cheyenne Van dynamic, and they just threw a lot of it in one episode, and it kind of just muddled the two. But I digress. Also, Brock Hart.
It's a wrestler name.
I assume in the Triple X parody version of this, he's Brock Hart.
Oh yeah. I've been halved.
But yeah, that's the whole episode. I don't know if there's anything else, Joe, you have. I'm sure Ferg doesn't have any extra tidbits about Reba, but if there's anything else, Joe, you want to bring up, this would be your chance.
No, but I wish that all the people who I made the offers for all the vintage Reba buttons I'm trying to buy on eBay right now would get back to me. That would make my week a whole lot better.
Well, that being said, nothing left to do but greenlight or cancel. Again, there's only 3 out of the 5 of us, so go to S1E1pod.com. That's where we find all the links to where to listen to us. Follow our Instagram. We put up a graphic every week with the results to our greenlight or cancel. We're not going to know the results until we get to talk to Gordo and Nick about it. And then
unless we all agree.
That will be up. Unless all 3 of us agree, then yes, it will have to come down to their votes. So that being said, again, S1E1 pod on Instagram or Twitter as well. Give us a follow on both of those. But yes, let's move on to the greenlight or cancel. Joe, I'm going to start with you.
I think no surprise. Look, there's some issues with this show, like you said, right? Like, it should be 2 episodes. The wedding shouldn't be so truncated. Although I do understand the idea of putting everything into a pilot so that when you start episode 2, you're just like, look, this is the dynamic of this show. We already got through it, and we showed you some of it, versus them being like, okay, we'll draw this out, or we'll say, like, when they got married over the summer, it was really weird. Like, I kind of see both points of that, but I really, really love this show. We watched it. I'd never seen it aside from just catching it, like I said, walking in on people watching it. That sounds creepy. Like, oh, pardon me. Is that Barbara Jean? But I loved it. I watched 1 episode and I was hooked, and it became a thing where, like, there would be nights where we would be up until, like, past midnight, when we usually go to bed at, like, 10 or 10:30, because we'd be like, one more episode of Reba, and we burned through it. I love this show, and I was hooked from the pilot, so I can't not greenlight it. So Reba gets a huge greenlight for me. I love this record, this TV show. We play the record, like, once a week. It's like a thing we do on Sundays now when we start, like, hanging out and cooking. I am a huge fan of Reba, a huge fan of Barbara Jean, and yeah, green light for me.
Ferg.
Way to cheat again, Joe.
And how was that a cheat?
Yeah, this was all a mess, but I love the show as a whole, and I love everything
No,
about the
no,
show.
no, I love the pilot, I said. It
I
hooked
think
me
you're a
into
little-
watching the whole thing.
I think you are a little clouded by having watched the whole thing recently, but we'll Ferg,
Sure,
continue
but
on.
I said
you
in
have
my
every right to your
recap
pick.
that
It's fine. I'm just
the
teasing
pilot
you.
sucked me in.
But anyway, I went into this before I even watched. I was like, show I reluctantly watched. I was gonna pass it. Just, it's not for me, but it's a decent show. Green light. Upon watching this and like discussing, the show is just such a mess. It is rushed from start to finish. Pointed out a ton of things they could have done better. And I'm with Joe, where I ultimately do kind of enjoy the show, even though I keep saying how much I hated it. I watched a lot of it, but I can't ignore all the mistakes made in this pilot. So ultimately, it's gonna get the cancel from me, but it's better than a cancel. But
But is it
green
better
light.
than Homeboys in Outer Space?
It is way better than Homeboys in Outer Space. I didn't have to bat an eye to cancel that.
That I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, cancel from Ferg.
I wish I could find the rest of the season of Homeboys in Outer Space. I actually want to watch it. But to go into my green letter cancel for this one, listen, I follow Ferg with a lot of things we've been saying. For a lot of the jokes didn't land with me. I didn't hate the show, and I do know the show changes a little bit as it finds its form. But as far as this episode goes, again, like he was just saying, it was just a little too muddled for me, and I just thought there was just too much, and they should have just aired that out a little bit more. I've said it a bunch of times throughout the episode. It just, I don't know, it wasn't hitting for me, and you couldn't focus. It was like, are we talking about Cheyenne? And then, we really want to drive in the fact that Brock and her are getting divorced. But it was like not a focus on the episode. They just kind of kept throwing in just digs at him to remind you constantly. I'd have to watch more of it. I wouldn't be against seeing more because I'm very curious to see kind of how the show evolves. I remember seeing a lot of it when I was younger, but I really don't. Like I said, nothing stuck with me 20 years later. Again, I'm going to have to cancel it with Ferg, and it's not the worst show I've ever seen. It's just, I don't know, it was just too messy for me. And I think if this is all I had to go by, it wouldn't really make me want to watch the next episode. So I have to just be true to that.
You know what I'll say? If we were doing this show, if this was our week 2 show of the podcast, I probably would have passed it. But after seeing a bunch of other things do it better, it's set my expectations higher, where
That's
I
true.
look for little things like pacing a lot more than I used to.
I
So
agree.
that's a
I
lot
think that we
of
all make
me
different
giving
decisions
this the
now
cancel.
based on the history, yeah.
Yeah.
I
think it's a
stand by
good
I'd
point.
cancel Friends.
I'd have to rewatch it. I'm not sure if I would, but we'll get to that in another week. I think we've kept all you good people long enough. So, guys, I can't say congratulations or sorry to Reba. As of right now, it's not looking great. But if Nick and Gordo both decide to side with Joe, then it's going to be a green light. Again, go to S1E1pod.com.
We'll
That
see.
will have the graphic that will update you on that, and then you'll be able to find out how we voted a little later in the week. But, yeah, that's it. That's all the time we have for this week, guys. Again, thank you, S1E1pod.com. Rate, review, subscribe, do all of that fun stuff. It means a lot to us. We really would benefit from more ratings and reviews. But also, I do want to remind you again, just follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. We actually are seeing more people interacting with us, DMing us with show ideas. That stuff's super appreciated. I can't promise we're going to do every show that's sent to us, but we have a very long list of things we'd like to get to. And it's just really awesome hearing from you guys, hearing positive feedback. It makes it worth it to us because I've said this before, we're not paid to do this. You know, you're not hearing 100 ads on this show. It is truly a labor of love. We enjoy doing this, but when we hear that other people are finding the show and digging it and reach out to us, it really does make it worth it. We talk about it internally whenever we hear from you guys. But again, that's it. That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys for listening. Catch us back next week. But until then, thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Brock Lesnar tattoo.